All right, welcome to the Viking Age podcast. I'm your host, Adam Patrick. I'm the editor for thevikingage.com, where we cover the Minnesota Vikings. And as always, I'm joined by my co host, Chris Schad, who writes for us here at the Viking Age, as well as Bring Me the News, Zone Coverage, and the Brookings Register. Before we get started today, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. Really appreciate that. Follow the Viking Age on Twitter and Facebook, of course. And then the audio versions of this podcast are available Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, wherever you get your podcast. I do not have trivia today, Chris, but I did just think of something that came across my screen. It's not trivia, don't worry. But it's reported that the New York Jets are going to be forced into doing Hard Knocks this year. They You can say no, but the NFL does have a rule they can force a team to do Hard Knocks. I think there's 4 of them. I think it's the Bears, Saints, Jets, and some other team. I can't remember. But the Jets, Aaron Rodgers, and the Jets, Hard Knocks. Are you interested in this at all?
I want to see the director's cut of this, just
Yeah.
especially the Rodgers interviews, just see how like wonky it gets. Just like, I was just thinking in Green Bay and sitting in the stars and the darkness and everything else. And when the planets, the Grimlap system align and everything else, and people really they don't know about all these conspiracy theories that I had, like 45 minutes of just him going on. It's like, all right, is that what you think about the upcoming season?
Right.
That's cool. No,
Right.
it was
That
always going to be the Jets, and like you said,
yeah.
teams have the right to say no, but the NFL, they protected themselves in this event because they said, all right, you can either voluntarily do it or we're going to make you do it.
Mhm.
And out of the teams you mentioned, what was it? Bears, Saints, Jets, and
Is it
some other team
is
that
it the
doesn't matter.
Steelers?
Like, I mean, out of those 4, it's like who else were you going to choose? Like,
Right.
you going to go to the Bears? Like,
Oh, Commanders.
Commanders.
That would have kind of been
That would
interesting
have
with
been
the
interesting,
ownership
actually.
switch and everything.
Yeah. Yep. That would have been very
And how
interesting with
much
the
of a
ownership.
disaster it probably is in their like facilities and everything. I think the NFL is probably like,
Commanders are like, no, we don't
yeah,
want you in
I think
here.
the NFL is probably like, no, we do not want to show off your facilities that suck. So
Oh, yeah.
like, remember
Yeah.
that Sean Taylor statue? That statue that they unveiled last year was like a
It looked
mannequin.
like a mannequin at a
Yeah.
department store at the team. They just took something from the team store and they're like, let's throw that in
They didn't
there.
even they didn't even have like they had the recent jerseys and all the recent stuff instead of like the stuff that Sean Taylor actually wore. But yeah, that would have been interesting. Jets wise, yeah, I'm gonna be interested, but I'm curious to see, because they didn't want to do it. What are they gonna maybe allow to be filmed? What are they
Right.
gonna want taken out and all that stuff? Because that Robert Saleh, the head coach, was pretty adamant. He was like, "Nope, don't want to do it." And then NFL's like, "Well, sucks to be you because you're gonna have to do it."
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it'll be there's some other interesting storylines there, like Garrett Wilson. I'm intrigued by him. He's a good little young receiver. Brees Hall coming back from his ACL. Maybe Dalvin Cook becomes a New York Jet because Tyler Conklin has been recruiting him apparently. So maybe that's something to keep an
Tyler
eye on too.
Conklin's his own like
Oh yeah,
interesting story too.
yeah.
Wasn't he like an underwear model at some point or something? Am I thinking of the wrong guy?
I think you're thinking of the wrong guy, but he was a
Yeah.
basketball player.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't
that's
know.
2 totally different things.
Yeah.
But he was a basketball player at like Eastern or Western Michigan, one of those. And then he came to the Vikings
I
and
think he was a Central Michigan guy, actually.
oh geez, of course, in the
I don't
middle,
know.
in the middle.
Yes. Let me look.
But yeah, it should be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how much, you know, what people
Central
like more.
Michigan. Yep.
If people like the quarterback show on Netflix more, or they like Hard Knocks. I think people are gonna like the quarterback show probably more.
And that might be interesting if they still run into areas where they have to force teams to do Hard Knocks.
Right.
Could the quarterback show be a replacement for Hard Knocks down the road? I don't think it will, but that's something you could look at down the road.
And they do Hard Knocks like in season too, and that
Yeah.
They haven't picked a team yet that's I think made the playoffs. I think they did the Eagles and Doug Peterson's last year. They did the Colts and they did like the Cardinals last year.
See, I think the Vikings were smart by doing this quarterback show because now like NFL's like, well, they did this, so they're gonna curry favor. I guess I don't really know the right words for that, but just kind of like, hey, we did this for you. Stay
Right.
the hell out of our locker room.
That's probably kind of why the Chiefs did it. Probably why like the Chiefs did it too. They're like, hey, all right, here's 1 year. All right, now leave us alone.
It's easier to follow one player around than it is the
Yeah.
entire team. Like,
Right.
go talk to him, Kirk.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Jefferson's probably going to be in this quarterback series because he's going to be his top target and everything. Thielen will probably in it too, but it'll just be interesting to see like what other Vikings are in it. Will make an appearance. I'm sure we'll see Mr. Chris Boyd in there, who was he like the inventor or the guy who came up with the Kirko chains? I feel like he was the one. Him and
Chris
Christian
Boyd,
Jack.
you said?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was looking up the definition of curry favor because I think I absolutely misused that term, but that's fine. I don't think I did anything too
All
bad.
right. Well, let's get into our first
On
topic.
that note.
Yeah, let's get into a very important first topic. So Taylor Swift. I don't know if you heard of her. She's a musician. Yeah, she performed in front of massive crowds inside. I feel like I'd be like massive crowds inside U.S. Bank Stadium this past weekend, Friday and Saturday, I believe. She had 2 shows. Some of those in attendance for one of these shows, either Friday or Saturday, took to social media during the show or shortly after to claim how loud it was inside the stadium. And some even stated that was louder than it has ever been before for a Vikings game. Now, I had a little fun with this on Sunday when I posted the SpongeBob mocking meme text along with the sideline view of the Minneapolis Miracle with the caption, "The Taylor Swift concert was the loudest U.S. Bank Stadium has ever been." So it was a fun little tweet, but apparently people thought I was pissed about, saying that Taylor Swift concert was louder than any Vikings game. No, I don't care at all if it was, which it wasn't. Who cares? And if it was, who cares as well? I mean, it was a post on Twitter, not serious at all. Believe me, when I say that I don't give a fuck about Twitter or anything on it. But also know this: if someone tells me to stop doing something, which a lot of people in the replies they like stop or like delete this, I'm gonna dig my heels in like even deeper. Like that's just how I am. Is it a good quality? Probably not. But that's just how I've always been. But that's why today I had another reply with like some actual facts, allegedly. But overall, it's just in good fun. Apparently, not for everyone though. But this claim that it was the loudest any event has ever been inside U.S. Bank Stadium. You were in attendance at the Minneapolis Miracle. Do you believe this is a valid claim?
First of all, can you tell it's June?
Oh, yeah.
Like after mini camp and between training camp and everything else. We're not talking about like previews or, depth charts or anything. We're talking, well, Taylor Swift was louder than the Vikings. Like you said, who cares?
Right.
And I'll get into that a little bit more. But I think we're looking at 2 different environments if we want to get in this discussion.
Oh, yeah.
A concert is basically nonstop noise for I don't know how long Taylor played for.
3 hours, I think they are.
She went 3 hours.
That's so long. Yeah,
that's awesome. Actually,
well, there was like an article in I think like the Wall Street Journal about like, do you take a bathroom break during a Taylor Swift show? Because then you might miss some of it. It's like, yeah, you're an adult. You should take a bathroom break.
You're right. You don't. It's kind of like when you and I go to wrestling shows. There are certain moments you just know. Like,
yeah, I don't.
Maybe there's a song you're like,
I don't want to point
the
out
folklore era.
Yeah, I don't want to point out which matches they usually are, but usually it's the same ones.
You just know. You hear the theme and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go take a whiz.
Oh yeah.
that's probably the same thing at a Taylor Swift concert.
Anytime you
But
hear the Roman Reigns theme, you just get right out of there and just go.
yeah, just sprint to your
No one,
seat because
no one will be
I
there.
do remember Full Gear a couple years ago. We got there a little late. We were standing in the concourse and MJF's music hit, and I'm like, oh shit, we gotta go.
Yeah.
But like I was saying, a concert's basically nonstop noise for 3 hours, I guess. There's no lull. It's straight music. It's people screaming at full blast, just everything. Football, there's time between plays. There's times where your offense goes 3 and out for 9 straight series. There are lulls, even before the Minneapolis Miracle. You also have different fan bases. Like a Taylor Swift one, it's going to have a younger audience. Maybe a higher pitched scream, which might raise the decibel level.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Like I just kind of thought about all this, but I was at the Miracle game, as you mentioned, not at the Taylor Swift concert. From the photos, I almost feel like there were more people at that concert the entire time than people who were actually in US Bank Stadium when the Miracle happened, because some people left early. And some people, yes, and some people also say that they left early, or that they didn't leave early, but they did leave early. Mm-hmm. And I was there. I should know. You know who you are. I feel like a lot of people read Matthew Coller's tweet because he was kind of the first guy who brought it up. And there's a large group of Viking fans that felt like he absolutely took a whiz on the 63-year history of the Minnesota Vikings. My God, how could that possibly be longer? Then they're sitting there going like, oh my God, she got flames. Why can't we have flames? This is a bunch of crap. This is it's a testosterone fueled insecurity, because like you said, who cares? And when you think about it, the Vikings have a lot of connections to Taylor Swift. Like, they have their share of eras as well, right? You have the Purple People Eaters, you have the Green era, you have the Red era. We're in the Kwesi era right now, the competitive rebuild era, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of songs can also relate to Vikings fans. Vikings fans look at the Lombardi trophy and think you belong with me, right? Packer fans talk about their 4 Super Bowls and you go, why you got to be so mean? Kwesi referred to Justin Jefferson's contract as a champagne problem. And the Vikings have ripped through more quarterbacks than Taylor Swift has had boyfriends. So,
oh, no.
I am swifted out after the weekend. I don't even live in Minneapolis, but I just saw it on my timeline and it looked like everybody had a great time, which is awesome. Like, I did not see anybody that went to that show saying, oh my God, it sucked. I paid $600 to go see this. Everybody walked out satisfied, which is something that does not happen all the time with the main tenant in US Bank Stadium, should I point out.
Yeah.
Let people enjoy their life. That's basically what this whole rant is. If you want to go to a Taylor Swift show and think it's the loudest thing you've ever heard, awesome. If you've been to the Minneapolis Miracle and you want to say that was the loudest thing ever, but like to sit there and be like, no, this was louder. No, this is loud. You're bored because it's June. You're bored.
Yeah.
So there it is. I mean, I am not like a diehard Swiftie, but I do have a playlist called T Swift or Riot. So I don't know. You?
Not my cup of tea. I enjoy a few Taylor Swift covers. I will say that, but they're mostly by like metal bands and stuff. So,
and she's also super freaking talented. Let's
throw
that out there too. So I mean,
I
don't know. I think people are they hear Taylor Swift and like, I listen to 93X and I call into the Power Trip and we make fart jokes and like, I'm a guy. I don't listen to that stuff. And it's like, all right, yeah, cool. It's the same people who have their face melt off when wrestling gets mentioned. Yeah, I went to Royal. Like the Indiana Jones meme or something.
You mentioned it. The most important part is people had fun, enjoy themselves. It really doesn't matter if it was louder or not. Like that was like I posted that thing. It was just like poking fun at it. Like it wasn't even like I was like, no, you're wrong. But we'll say this. I did just write about it for the Viking Age because it is June and it's just a relevant topic. I did find that the Viking Age, or not the Viking Age, the Minneapolis Miracle topped out at 120 decibels. according to the Vikings. Probably during that moment. The Taylor Swift show on Saturday, according to a Reddit user on the official Taylor Swift Reddit page, whose friend is a subcontractor and like set up the speakers or whatever. It maxed out at 118 decibels. Simple
Here
math.
come the Swifties.
Simple
You
math.
shouldn't have mentioned that.
The Miracle was louder, but at the same time, they're both fucking loud. Like, so, like, wasn't that big of a difference. It was
It's
loud.
like it's like nobody walked out of there going like, well, that was definitely 2 decibels higher. Like,
yeah. You're not gonna notice that. Last thing on this, what is the most? Because these tickets, these Taylor Swift tickets, I think I looked right before, like, just to see how much they were on Saturday. I think the cheapest was like $800. It was like behind the stage in the nosebleeds. What's the most you've ever paid to attend a sporting event or concert, if you don't mind sharing?
Does a wrestling show count?
It's a sporting event.
Sporting event, technically. I spent, how much was it? $700 on my Royal Rumble ticket. But, so I went in 2019.
Is that Arizona?
2019, yes, because I'm looking at, I have my, hang on a second. I got props here. This is going to be great for the podcast. I spent way too much money and I walked away.
Oh, I got the chair.
Which is awesome. I don't know what to do it. Oh, it's upside down. But I mean, I don't know what to do with it in my apartment because like it's just there. I have 4 of them.
Okay.
But yeah, I spent $700. I sat about 12 rows back and I could barely see the ring. It was very much like the Taylor Swift tickets. My sibling actually, she was at the Taylor Swift concert and had the same thing. She was on the side of the stage. It was just like a big thing. And I'm like, I guess you're there. You get to like feel all the energy, but yeah, it was the same thing. I would have spent more to sit closer at that show or even spent less to sit up. But
I was going to say sometimes closer isn't always even better because I've sat like almost front row for like a Vikings preseason game and like I couldn't see anything because the players were huge and like they were just blocking the field and I'm like
yeah, front row seats at a football game sound like fun, but they're not.
No. But it was fun. It was still cool. It was still a cool experience because the players were like right there, but you just couldn't get to watch the jumbotron. But it was still I think the most I've ever paid is actually I'm going on Saturday. My wife and I are going to see Fall Out Boy and Bring Me the Horizon out here. I think we paid around a total of $300. So not a lot, but and I think if I ever go to a Vikings game, I'll probably splurge.
Spend up,
including flights and all that stuff. But yeah, I've always been like I could never bring myself to pay what some of those people paid to go to that Taylor Swift show. Like, good for you if you have money to spend. Like, that's on you. But like, if I'm paying that much money, I better be backstage, hanging out with the band. Like, I'm not sitting nosebleed. I'm not paying $800 to sit at the top of the stadium.
I will say the $275 tickets I bought for TakeOver the night before Royal Rumble were even better, and it was a better show because that
back
was
then
awesome.
Too. What was that? Alistair Black was that when he was there?
Alistair Black took on Tommaso Ciampa for the title.
There you go.
And
that's when was Velveteen Dream still in there before he got in some trouble?
I think Velveteen Dream was there, but he did not wrestle. Okay. I remember Johnny Gargano took on Ricochet for the North American title. The War Raiders, as they were called back then, took on the Undisputed Era for the tag team titles, and that was awesome. Bianca Belair took on Shayna Baszler for the women's title.
Okay.
Can I name the whole thing? I don't think.
More.
Oh, and Matt Riddle fought Cassie Ozono, but I was getting a beer during that. See, beer break. We were just talking about it.
All right, we're going to talk about some Vikings. This is a Vikings podcast. We're 20 minutes in, so we figured we might as do that. So I think it was yesterday. I posted a poll on the Viking Age. Just came into my mind as things do when you're just trying to find anything to write about. I posted a poll if the Vikings were forced to only be able to extend one. We know they're going to extend Justin Jefferson, maybe some other people, and they probably would like to extend both Daniil Hunter and T.J. Hockenson. But if they had to choose between ones, for some reason they only want to do one and let the other one walk or whatever, who should they extend? So I will simply ask you the same question. If forced to pick between the two, who should the Vikings extend this summer, Daniil Hunter or T.J. Hockenson?
I went back and forth on this
Oh,
because it's a very difficult question. Obviously, Daniil Hunter is one of the best edge rushers in the NFL when
mhm,
healthy and placed in the right scheme.
mhm,
TJ Hawkinson is one of the best tight ends in the NFL, I think,
yep,
as far as an all around ability goes. Um, but I landed on Hawkinson, and here's why. Daniil Hunter is a very good edge rusher. He's had some injury history that
mhm,
he's 28 now. He's still very, very good,
mhm.
but he's also been on some bad defenses. Like you think of the 2020 defense. Actually, he didn't play that year. That's my bad. That's probably why they were bad.
Last season.
Yes, but I mean, you look at what the Vikings are doing now defensively.
Mhm.
We talked about it last year. It's not really a fit for Daniil Hunter to be that stand-up edge rusher. He's better when he's got a fist in the dirt and ready to explode off the line. Brian Flores' defense is going to have multiple fronts, so I'm sure Hunter is going to have more opportunities as a down pass rusher. But at the same time, you can always find edge rushers that can get pressure on the quarterback as like a band-aid if you need to. Like there's
Mhm.
always a Justin Houston or a Leonard Floyd was out there for a while this offseason. Like you can find ways to kind of patch that together until you find your Daniil Hunter or that guy. When it comes to tight end position, it's either you have an elite tight end or you have one that's just maybe it's the fantasy football thing, but I mean, I look at a guy like Hockenson. He's a fit for what Kevin O'Connell wants to do in this scheme. He's got great hands. He's an adequate blocker. They added Josh Oliver to kind of open up more of the playbook, and especially in this Kyle Shanahan offense, you would like to have. I think it's more of a value to pay an elite tight end than it is to try and draft one every year because they talk about it. You're basically drafting them for their next team with the learning curve that tight ends have. So I would re-sign Hockenson over the two. It's close. It would be one of those things like, okay, I get it. Like if they went the other way, but I would say I would keep TJ Hockenson over Daniil Hunter.
Yeah, I think that's what the majority feels. But um, I feel the other way. I just feel like Hawkinson at this point is more replaceable than Hunter, even with Hunter being what? He's old. He's 28 or 29. Um,
It's always funny to me, like me and you are like mid to late 30s, and we're
yeah,
like, that 28-year-old is old. Dalvin
Graybeard.
Cook's got to get out of here.
Yeah.
But
I just think more and more over the last few years, pass rushers especially have been producing still at a high level, even when they get older. Just look at Zadarius Smith last year. I know he kind of tapered off the second half of the year because of his knee, but that first half of the season, no one could stop him. He was on a tear, and he's what 30, 31. So there's that, and there's Von Miller. There's other examples of that. I think even someone like JJ Watt, he's not an edge rusher, but he still was able to generate a bunch of pressures during his final years with the Cardinals. And then with Hawkinson, yeah, he's a good tight end, but I feel like tight ends are kind of going down the similar path that running backs are, where like yes, you have Travis Kelsey, and yes, you have George Kittle, but like, do you really want to invest in that position when it's also one where guys get hurt all the time because of how much they have to do? You can find someone off the street or find someone in the draft in the late round or find someone in free agency, and they can catch 50, 60 balls a year, and that's what you need. Like with Daniil Hunter, I feel like that Daniil Hunters do not grow on trees. I
ask
feel like
Rick Spielman because he
well,
tried to
apparently
draft one every damn year.
Yeah, TJ won him. He's just the second coming of Daniel Hunter. I will say, for the case of extending TJ Hockenson, I want to say Fox Sports. What's her name? Carmen Vitale or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
She does NFC North. She just posted something about how, like, in Brian Flores' defense, he's never had like someone finish with double-digit sacks, which is good if the Vikings choose to move on from Daniil Hunter, which it just goes to show you he's able to generate pressure with his scheme more than he is a single player. Like in the past with the Vikings, you had to have Jared Allen on the field on every snap because he gave you the best shot of getting a sack. Well, with Flores' scheme, he's going to have cornerbacks coming at you, safeties coming at you, linebackers, guys from everywhere, every angle. He doesn't need Daniil Hunter to be, just put his hand in the dirt and make a move and beat a guy and get to the quarterback. It is helpful for sure.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to be like, no, I don't want Daniil Hunter on my team. I don't want him on, especially with all the guys that they've moved on from. He's got a bunch of young guys. It would probably be nice to have a guy like Daniil Hunter on the field to kind of have someone who's been through some stuff. But if it came down to it, like you said, I would understand either way if you picked Hunter or Hockenson. But at this point, I just feel like it's easier to replace Hunter than let's say Hockenson goes down with an injury next year. I think the Vikings offense is still fine. I think they're
Sure.
still able to do stuff. Let's say Daniil Hunter, they bring him back and he goes down. I don't know if that defense is the same. We've seen it not be the same.
But is it good with Hunter?
Right.
Like
That's
that's
the
the
debate.
thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, Hunter is great to have. It's almost a luxury at this point. And I get
Yeah.
it. Edge rusher is a premium position, but
Yeah.
you can find guys that can put, especially in this defense, put pressure on the quarterback and just be that situational guy. The Vikings just haven't had that money to go get those players because they've been paying aging veterans way too much money. So I mean,
that's the thing too. Like, you just don't know with the scheme too, and then another thing, you don't know how long Brian Flores is going to be there. So let's say like you extend or you don't extend Neil Hunter, and then Flores' defense does well, and then he leaves, and they switch back to a scheme that's more, plays more to Daniil Hunter's strengths. And you're like, well, that's great, but he's not here anymore. So like, kind of out of luck. So it's an interesting situation because the Vikings have to think about their defensive scheme, like and how long Flores might be there. Because if he gets the Vikings to be a top 10 defense next year, he's gone. He's out of there. He's going to be a head coach, which would be great for the Vikings because that would be great if they had a top 10 defense. I can't remember. Like I said, it would be 2018 or 2019, one of those years. They had top 10 defense. But yeah, like it's a very complicated situation, and I don't know. I think they're gonna extend Hockenson. I think extending a tight end, it's cheaper, so they're gonna do that. The Daniil Hunter thing is just very interesting because like he's in like a position in his career where like he's not at the end, he's not in his prime, but he's not like terrible either. He's still, I think Field Yates from ESPN posted that he had the most pressures on third and fourth down last year. That's significant. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. Lastly, we're going to talk about. Let's see, anything else to say about that?
I don't really have too much. I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's an either or situation. I think it's each is a separate case where you go.
Is there anyone else you think they're going to
it?
extend? Are they going to extend like Ezra Cleveland or something like that?
I feel
Something
like
weird.
his interest in a 1-year deal or an extension is one-sided.
Oh, KJ Osborne.
I don't know, dude. I kind of tossed you around. I don't know. That'll be interesting.
All right, we're gonna move on to our final topic, which has to do with Mr. Elgton Jenkins. Green Bay offensive guard. I don't know if have you seen the Leroy Jenkins meme or whatever on
yeah.
online? Yeah, that's
long
what
time ago. That was the
that's what
first
I
thing I
thought.
thought in my head. I just didn't say it.
That's what I Green Bay Packers offensive guard Elgton Jenkins was recently on NFL Network's Good Morning Football, and he talked a bit about his team, the Packers, and their chances to win the NFC North next season. Here's what he had to say. He says, winning the division is always the standard. 3 NFC North titles, it's always the standard in our locker room and in our building. We feel like we are the best team in our division, and we're going to go out there every week, wherever, and show that we are the best team in the division and the best team in the NFC. Chris, where will the Packers finish in the NFC North next season?
This is gonna sound like a cop out, but I said top 3
Oh,
because I think the top 3 teams in the NFC North will have at least 8 wins next season.
okay.
The Packers, Lions, and Vikings. Right now, as far as an order goes, I go Vikings, Packers, Detroit, because I need to see Detroit continue that momentum before I crown them, which isn't like me sitting here going Detroit sucks. I think they're a good team.
Just prove it.
Yes. And of course they have a more difficult schedule this year. They, is Jared Goff for
The
real?
Lions.
Yes, they have their history around them. I think they finished with 8 wins. I'm just not ready to be like the Lions are going to win 13 games under Dan Campbell. I kind of need to see it. So no slight, just yeah. The Packers are the same way too. Like was the end of last year because they were hot down the stretch, remember? Mm-hmm. And then
Lions knocked them out.
The Lions and they knocked them out. Yep. Was that the team at the end of the year, that on fire team? Is that what they're going to look like this year? Or are they going to look more like they did at the beginning of the season, where they're kind of like punched in the mouth and like, holy shit, we're in trouble here? But
yeah, because they killed the Vikings.
At the end of the year, yes.
But they weren't shorthanded. They had Kirk Cousins, they had Justin Jefferson, they had Dalvin Cook. They wore the wrong thing.
They had a slip and slide of a field. And
Not the Packers would never intentionally do that. They would never do that. I think they'll be second. I think they're kind of floating under the radar. Packers have always been solid. They still have plenty of good players on that team. Aaron Jones is still there. They both have A.J. Dillon, Christian Watson, second coming of Randy Moss.
Yeah.
Jordan Love, I'm curious to see, because when he's played in the past, like he's looked okay. I think he played against the Vikings in the end of that game there, and he looked okay.
Yeah.
Just full season wise, you're always curious. So second, I think, and then I just think the Vikings are gonna still win the division. I don't believe in the hype in the Lions. I could see the Lions finishing 4th. I could see the Bears overtaking them, and I could even see the Bears finishing 2nd. I think they have a lot of good pieces. They've had a lot of good players this year too, so I could see that happening. It just all depends on how Justin Fields plays and if he can stay healthy. Last question. Matt LaFleur, head coach of the Green Bay Packers. Is he a good head coach, or did he just benefit from 2 MVP seasons from Aaron Rodgers?
I think it can be yes or no, yes and no. Like, his offense obviously works, right? Because if it didn't, Aaron Rodgers wouldn't have had those MVP seasons. Yeah. But I also think there are other things with LaFleur that kind of raise some eyebrows.
Yeah.
I go back to his days in Tennessee as an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And this is a funny story back from my fantasy football days. I talk about them like they're so long ago, but I mean, I quit that league and it does feel like forever. But I drafted Derrick Henry out of college and I sat on him for 2 or 3 years while Tennessee rode DeMarco Murray's corpse into the ground.
Yeah.
And the year after, Matt LaFleur came on, Derrick Henry and Dion Lewis were there. And you know what Dion Lewis looks like. You know what Derrick Henry looks like. Matt LaFleur was like, you know what? I'm just going to give Dion Lewis the ball more because, actually, I have a quote. And it said, until you get the pads on and really go through the preseason, I look at them both as 1A and 1B. I feel confident in both of those guys. They both bring a little bit of different qualities to what they do, but I think we've got 2 really good backs that we're excited about. how on earth do you look at Derrick Henry and go, you know, it's a good idea not giving him the ball? Like really, like Mike Vrabel's just like, cut my dick off. You don't give Derrick Henry the ball. I gotta win a Super Bowl. Yeah, run the ball. Yeah. And he's still doing this with Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. So I don't know. There's that Buffalo sideline interview where he looked like shell shocked, just like, we're losing. And yeah, Aaron just yelled at me in the locker room. And maybe that will help him too. Like,
oh, I'm sure.
Rid of that like massive personality. It might be like, okay, I am running this team now. This is my team.
Yeah. I'm sure that's how a lot of players felt when Mike Zimmer left. Like,
yeah.
Okay, we can breathe now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matt LaFleur. It seems his teams kind of just seem to like cower in the playoffs. Like I don't. They have home games, home field advantage, and they lose to like the 49ers. They lost to the Bucks. Like whenever they get to like the big stage, like they do fine. They're like the Braves from the 90s, where like they would just do awesome in the regular season, and they get to the playoffs and they suck for whatever reason because they're playing good teams. And I did look up the Packers' record against winning teams since 2019 when LaFleur was hired, and they're 15-15. So they're 500. That's okay. I think they were 3-6 last year against teams with winning records. Vikings, by the way, 1-6 against teams with winning records in 2020. That was terrible. They did much better last year, though. Yeah, the jury's kind of out. Like you said, his stint in Tennessee was odd. Like that offense wasn't good, and then he got hired to be the head coach for the Packers. It was like, this is weird. Like that was during the time when like, oh, you shook Sean McVay's hand. Oh, you're gonna be hired because you talked to him for 5 minutes. They did work together. I understand that. But like that was the time where like,
the Vikings also did the same thing, so we can't
correct.
Yeah.
Then that's worked out so far. Zach Taylor is another one who I was like, I have no idea who this guy is, and then he worked with Sean McVay. It's like, okay, and then they went to the Super Bowl, so like can't blame him. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It's kind of like when Brady left Belichick, and everyone's like, who's gonna do better? And it's like, Brady obviously went and won the Super Bowl, so he did better. But like, I never thought Belichick was gonna like fall flat on his face. They haven't been terrible. They've been able to get by, and that's how I think the Packers are gonna be. I think they're not gonna be one of the best teams in NFC. I don't believe, but I think they'll still be able to hang in there and then play spoiler and maybe sneak into the playoffs because they still have plenty of good players and their home stadium. That's an advantage. They have a good place to play and venues and crowds being there all the time. So I think they'll be all right. I did put in the thumbnail though. Should the Vikings be worried about them? What do you think? Should they be worried about them or?
Oh, totally.
Yeah,
I think I wouldn't dismiss them. They still have a lot of good players. Like we kind of crapped on Christian Watson a little bit. We didn't crap on Christian Watson. Crapped on the idea that he's Randy Moss or Justin Jefferson.
There's a better,
has
higher
more
ceiling
upside,
than Justin Jefferson.
Aaron Jones is good and AJ Dillon is good. Like they don't.
Yep.
They don't have. What's that?
They still have Bakhtiari? Is he still hurt? What's he do? What's going on?
I mean, his knee might be like ribs in an air cooker right now, but or air fryer right now. I botched that line, but that's okay. Air cooker. I'm gonna use my air cooker in just a little bit to reheat some pizza. They don't have like an elite. Oh my God, he's a problem player now. Like Aaron Rodgers was that player. Now they don't have him, and like everybody's kind of like, does Jordan Love that guy?
Jair Alexander.
A
couple of guys.
Jair, who
they've got like 11 first-round picks on defense.
Safeties over the top the entire game.
Yeah. They've got like 11 first-round picks on defense, and they're still won the Super Bowl. But yeah, you always got to worry about the Packers. Not so much the Lions, not so much the Bears.
It's very much like I will not. I will not dismiss the Packers until like they're dead. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
until they're like,
they're like Jason Voorhees. Like, you know,
yeah,
you throw him in the river, you chop both limbs off and whatever. And next thing you know, he's like got a machete in his mouth, like trying to, you know.
yeah. I think a lot of people think they're gonna just become like the Packers of the '80s, who were like really bad, and I'm just like, I'm not so
It would
sure.
be awesome.
It would, but
Yeah, but I feel like it's wishful
Jordan Love
thinking.
he was the first round pick. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. This isn't hand the keys over to Brock Purdy. I mean, that worked out pretty well, but like, this isn't just like some random guy or a rookie that he's been in the system for what 4 years now. So
Yeah.
it's not like he's coming into something totally new. That'll do it for today's show. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, like this video, follow the Vikings on the Viking Age on Twitter and Facebook. Follow the Vikings too. Why not? They need more followers. The audio version of this podcast will be available in the morning on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts. But until next time, Chris and I will talk to you later.